Food is fuel for your body, your mind, and definitely your sport. But let's face it, nutrition is confusing, and the expectations on girls and women to be thin and have a six-pack are exhausting. If you've ever been frustrated with your body, confused about nutrition, obsessed with eating healthy, or guilty when you don't, underate, overate, or overtrained, and overwhelmed with all the pressure, then this podcast is for you. Nutrition can be easy, you can take control of it, but it might start with letting go of control by asking for help and making a change. I'm Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, sports dietitian and owner of Rise Up Nutrition, where I empower female athletes to overcome nutrition concerns and perform at their highest level, to stop being confused by all the mixed or harmful messages, and finally have confidence in your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. Hey fans, Lindsay Cortez, registered sports dietitian and your host of the podcast. I wanted to remind you of our relatively new website launched a few months ago, femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com. It is somewhat still a work in progress as I have very limited time to work these days. However, I am passionate about continuing this podcast. And so we have femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com where you can find all things related to the podcast. You can search and browse episodes. You can learn about our affiliate partners to help keep this podcast going. You can provide a donation to the show and help us continue putting out free episodes to the public and for yourself. You can get in touch with me. You can provide feedback. You can request to be on the show or put in a suggestion for who you want to see on the show. So please go check it out. And I do want to highlight Previnex Supplements, who is one of our affiliate partners that is mentioned on the website. I have been recommending them a lot lately because this is the one supplement and company that I have been using pretty religiously for, I don't even know how many years now, maybe 3 years now. Specifically, their joint health supplement. I just went on vacation and I did not take it with me, and a week without it, and my joint pain in my toes, fingers, and elbows, which have been a problem area for me personally, started up again. And I came back from vacation, started taking it again, and I'm feeling the benefits after just a few days. Now, it definitely works best after you're taking it continuously for a while, but I do have arthritis and I've got 2 pretty heavy babies as well that I'm carrying around all day long and picking up, and that on top of athletics and trying to run and train and push my body, my joints are hurting, and I truly feel the benefit when I take Previnex joint health supplement. And I can't say that I truly, honestly, in my personal experience and work as a dietitian, can't say that about any other joint health supplement. Now, Previnex has plenty of other amazing supplements as well. Multivitamins, their immune health, if that's something you struggle with. Omegas, I love recommending omega-3s for the daily benefit, but also for athletes in reducing inflammation. They also have plant-based nutritional powders. So yes, I am on a Previnex kick right now, and you can get 15% off using the code RISEUP. I strongly recommend you do their subscription, or they just, send you the supplements on a monthly basis so that you never have to miss a beat. Use the code RISEUP, RISEUP, RISEUP. And just for some background context, that's because my former business name was Rise Up Nutrition. Things are kind of shifting a little bit, but that discount code RISEUP is still there. And I want you to rise up with the power of nourishing your body and fueling your body to be a fierce, fit, and fueled athlete. So check out femaleathletenutritionpodcast.com. Please check out our affiliate partners. Use the code RISEUP for Previnex Supplements. That's PREVINEX. You can head to their website to learn more. And we are going to get into the episode today. I had such an amazing conversation with this guest. We talked in this episode for about an hour. And then even when we stopped recording, we continued our conversation for another 30 minutes, just really connecting with each other. And what's great is that you can connect with her too through her book that just released. And on that point, how we kind of got to getting Micha Powell, and her book, Sprinting Through Setbacks, an Olympian's Guide to Overcoming Self-Doubt and Imposter Syndrome, we wanted to reach out to her because her book is published through Strong Girl Publishing Company, and the owner and founder of Strong Girl Publishing Company was also a guest, Molly Herford, who was in episode 170, Keeping Girls and Women Strong in Sport. So please check out episode 170 with Molly Herford, who also then created this amazing publishing company to get writers such as Micha, our guest today, to get their amazing story out for female athletes. So I won't say any more. We'll dive in. We'll hear from Micha and her empowering story. And for more, please look for her book, included in the show notes, Sprinting Through Setbacks. Okay, let's get into the episode. Hey fans and listeners, it's Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, registered sports dietitian and your host of the podcast. Super excited about our guest today, as I usually am. We have Micha Powell. She's a 2022 Commonwealth Games gold medalist and world-class Canadian Olympic sprinter specializing in the 400 meters. She was born in Montreal to a 3-time Olympian, Rosie Eden, and currently long jump world record holder, Mike Powell. Athletics is clearly part of her DNA. This past month, Micha published her first book called Sprinting Through Setbacks, an Olympian's Guide to Overcoming Self-Doubt and Imposter Syndrome. We're going to get into all things athletics, Olympics, self-doubt, writing the book, everything with Micha today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay. I'm so happy to be here and talk about all those really important topics and share my story with everybody.
For sure. And, I think to just set the stage, we kind of already mentioned it in your bio, but you were born into a family of athletes, a mom and dad, a world record holder, Olympian, but focusing on you.
Mm-hmm.
How did track and field or just athletics begin for you? Like, was it natural for you? Was the pressure there from your parents? What was your journey to track and field?
Oh, I think it was a good balance because I had known about my parents being Olympians. However, I didn't know quite to the extent. I knew that my dad had the world record and I knew my mom had the Canadian record. But I think all my life, I was just, as a child, I was just told, just make sure you're doing something that you love. So I was always engaged in sports, whether I started off with that. I actually did tennis and soccer, swimming. So everything that I did, I was always encouraged by my parents to do because, I loved it. And I got such a thrill out of, going after a personal goal and reaching that. And I remember, when I first learned how to do a dive off the diving board, I was like, this is amazing. So it was always things like that really gave me that motivation to keep doing sport, just to also just keep moving. And I loved the connections I would make because I would move quite a bit. And so I always found sport was a nice way to immediately get into the community. And then when track came along, so I actually started off in cross country in 2012. So a lot of people find that pretty impressive because not a lot of 400 meter runners do the cross country, but it's because, again, there wasn't this blueprint. Like my mom really made sure that I just did a sport that I really loved and enjoyed. So I went into cross country, loved the team aspect, loved, feeling my lungs going. And I felt like I kept pushing myself every race. And then I switched to the shorter sprints, the distances that were only like a lap or two. And then I found my stride in the 400. I wasn't the best by any means, but I definitely was improving very quickly. And I was watching the Olympics in the summer of 2012, and I was just watching the 100 meters. I was like, oh, I want to do that. I really want to do that. Just the setup, seeing them in their blocks and the stadium go quiet. And that really drew me in. So I asked my mom to time me, and it was something like, 13 seconds something. So it was really definitely like, oh, okay, this is something I think I want to try.
Yeah.
And I was running the 400. And funnily enough, my mom, she did the 4 hurdles. My dad has the world record in the long jump. So I think I felt like I could carve my own niche.
Yeah.
And when my coach from Maryland, that's where I went to school, University of Maryland, he was actually out for a recruitment trip in November of 2012. So I just started track. He wasn't there for me. He was there for two other girls. But I went up to them, and it was him and the assistant coach, Coach Siebert. And I said, hi, just chatting with them, telling them that, I just started, but I love the sport. And they're like, okay, it's cool.
Yeah.
And then when my times started to come down, I went from a 59-second 400 to 55 in one season.
Yeah.
Definitely. They were very interested and it was great to see that they were interested from before too. So I went with them, and that was the start of my career. And once I ran the Olympic standard in 2016, it was just like no going back. There are parts of me that wonder if I should have done the long jump, just because I am very springy, and I wonder if there would have been that, the transfer, because my dad still has a world record. But I don't regret doing the 400, because I feel like it's an event that is very mental. It's a lot of, you don't want to be too in your head, because there are a lot of things that you could be bringing into it that don't need to be there. But I find that when everything aligns and you're able to just believe in yourself, it's like the most amazing race. So I like the fact that it is a whole lap, because anything can happen. And when I'm on my side and I'm relaxed and I'm having fun, it's just it was such a rewarding feeling.
Yeah. I love that. It's just interesting for me to listen to you, because I've always wondered that with like, maybe not so much athletes, but like just other famous people, like celebrities. I'm like, their children, do they grow up knowing like how famous, their parents are, but it becomes normal for them. It's just, that's their normal. So it's like, okay, your parents are Olympians, but like as a little kid, it's like, they're just your parents. Right. And so, you found your own way. And then probably around the same time that you were finding your own path and having a dream, then it set in, my parents did this too. Like this.
You got it.
And if anything, probably helped it maybe even feel more within reach. Because growing up, I didn't know any Olympians. That was such a far-fetched thing, and I don't know if for you it felt more like, oh, they did it, so I can do it too. Like, did it feel like more of a confidence builder or more of a struggle?
I love how you framed that, because now that I'm thinking about it, it actually definitely felt like an achievable goal, because my parents had done it before. And numerous times, I remember thinking growing up, being a 3-time Olympian is just something that you work hard and you do. And meanwhile, that is a very, very tiny fraction of the population.
Right.
So you're right. Like, I remember opening the Guinness World Record book and showing it to my class. And I was like, there's my dad. And things like that again, aren't normal, but were a part of my, my upbringing. And seeing my mom's pictures in Barcelona and her hurtling over the hurdle, it's a stadium filled with people. You're right. Looking back, that felt like, well, that is going to be me. That's going to have to be my reality. And with that comes, of course, like my own pressures, because I want to achieve as much as they have, if not more. So I do remember starting to go, okay, I want to make sure that I leave a legacy at school. And, I think that there's such a thing as good pressure, because I'm not sure if I would have pushed so hard to go to school in the States, where there would have been more competition so I could become better and leave a legacy. I don't think I would have gone to the States if my parents hadn't already. And my mom told me all of the benefits she got from going outside of her comfort zone, because if she stayed in Montreal, where I'm from, there isn't as big of a network when it comes to high performance, collegiate running. Mm-hmm. And that's where she really, really, I think she found her stride. That's where I found my stride when I went to university in the States, because you're running against people who everybody has in the mindset, oh, I'm trying to make the Olympics, or at the very least, I'm trying to, go big and really put on a show. And that rubs off on you when you go to the US. It really does, because there's a support there. There's just so many more people. So there's more interest in, I would say, track and field compared to Canada. Not to say that there isn't in Canada. It's just that there definitely is more of a culture surrounding athletics, and that rubs off on you too. So what a great observation that because my parents did it, it started to be the norm. And that could be right there a whole psychological study of if something that seems unachievable to some people, but then you grew up in that setting where that is just something that you do,
Right.
then I wonder, yeah, it probably made it feel like it was absolutely attainable. It was going to require some dedication, of course, and sacrifices. I went to school as a student athlete. I definitely had my grades and my training on the forefront. I wasn't a part of, many groups or clubs or extracurricular activities because I didn't have any time. It was like I literally had to go to class, eat, train, lift, do it all over again. So that 6 to 9 p.m. downtime was my time to get ready for everything else. So that's a really great
and study
point that you made. Yeah, and study, exactly. I remember
and call your mom.
I had the Olympic trials. Yeah, call my mom.
Very little time to fit everything else in.
There we go. Exactly. I'll never forget Olympic trials 2016, my junior year, and I was finishing up summer classes because I wanted to get ahead next year because I wanted to have as few classes as possible. But by doing that, I took on so much more. And I talk about that in my book about sometimes you really don't need to put that much on your plate, because I remember thinking, who is doing this right now? Who is at their Olympic trials and doing schoolwork? I know I'm trying to get ahead, but this feels a little bit crazy.
Much. Yeah. And so we were just talking about how, when you saw the dream was achieved around you, oh, this is something I can do too. But it also seems pretty obvious, and you kind of already alluded to it. Like, it also creates that pressure of maybe living up to an expectation or,
Absolutely.
Finding your path, not your parents' path.
Yeah.
And, go down a whole rabbit hole with this, but I think kind of just a general question of like, at what point were those things like really hard to deal with? You're in a good place right now, but I'm sure over the past, 10 years, it's, you've had those low points.
Yes, absolutely.
Is this for me? Can I do this? Am I enough? And that's that imposter syndrome.
Oh my gosh, you got it. Yeah, that's the big thing with my book. There was a point, and I would say probably like 2 times in my career, where everything just felt too much. There was just too much on my shoulders. And it was because I was putting too much expectations on myself in a way that I was comparing myself to other people. So I think that there's a distinction between I'm going to run my best this year and, go for the Olympic team, as opposed to I have to go for it. I have to make the Olympics. If I don't make the Olympics, I'm not going to, get funding. If I don't, then you're starting to go into this realm of you don't even know what that's going to look like, but you're ready, trying to process and make sense of all these things that haven't even yet happened. So for me, it was, when making the Olympic team in 2016, but I didn't actually get to compete. I was an alternate. So that was out of my control. I did everything I could to be the biggest asset to the team. And I was younger, and I've talked about this before, but they made the decision that felt right at the time, and we'll never know what could have happened, but they went with a more experienced team, and they all went well. They all ran really well. And then I was there thinking, no, what did I do wrong? And then I had people doing viewing parties. So that's something that I remember specifically feeling the worst about, because I was feeling like I let them down when that is not the case. I'm sure if I called all of them up, they wouldn't have said, what's wrong with you? Why did you, but my mind was already going there. Oh, you just disappointed them. You're not running. How was I supposed to control that? Or, if I ran better at a certain point, maybe no. So that was really tough, because I had a really big imposter syndrome when I went back to school. I felt like I made the Olympics, but I didn't get to race. So I was putting all these limitations and all these parameters around my huge achievement. So I wasn't even able to really absorb or appreciate the fact that I am an Olympian, and that I was 21 years old when I made this huge achievement of making the Canadian Olympic team. So I immediately went into, okay, what can I do to be faster, be better, as opposed to appreciating that every single thing I did at that point was a fantastic, effort. And so I went right into, okay, I need to train better. I need to run faster. And just, I kept thinking, because I didn't want to let other people down, as opposed to looking inside myself and thinking, wow, just 4 years ago, you just started this sport. So
I know, I was going to say, I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, so 2012, you decided, I think I want to do this. And in
Thank you.
2016, you
There we
were
go.
in the Olympics as an alternate like
See,
4 years.
you got it. So my view was just getting so skewed, and I wasn't looking at what I had done and the person I was starting to become. So that really, I think, affected my sense of self. And I started to really just get, everything was, I was really heightened. I was very sensitive to criticism. Like, oh, it was just a lot on me. And I realized looking back, I'm like, I was putting that pressure on myself. And that's totally normal. But I think if I had more tools, which I really talk about in my book, which is like looking at yourself and analyzing what you do on a day-to-day basis so that you can look at yourself as this ongoing project as opposed to being defined by one moment. And I love all the prompts in the book because I'm talking about things like what do you tell yourself before you go out to a big meet, and it all starts back to practice. So just writing down 3 things that you want to achieve, and instead of this like it has to be this big moment, it's just all these little things that you're going to do along the way are going to help you be your best self. And for me, it's kind of always talking to that or acknowledging that inner voice and stopping myself from going off the cliff and then just completely adding all these scenarios that won't even happen. And it's like, okay, whoa, let's take a step back because I've already accomplished so many of my dreams, and I have done all those things because I gave myself that chance. So that was a big part for me with imposter syndrome. And then self-doubt really came when in, I think, 2019. So there's a system in Canada where you get carding, which is essentially enough resources and funding so that you can like just cover your basics, like, just some rent, food, just like totally basic stuff, just so you can train
Yeah.
and not have to worry about having like a full-time job at the same time of representing your country. So I'm really grateful for that. But that year in 2019, I did not receive it. And I was pretty distraught because I felt like, man, I just finished school and I don't have like this, job set up. So I tried to make training full-time work, and then I couldn't do that. I had to get a job. And I was feeling like, oh, man, I have so much on my plate right now. And I was doing talks, which was great, but it was definitely draining me. And then finally in 2021, I just missed the Olympics team by 1 spot, which was really tough. But then I took all that disappointment and turned it into, well, you are still out here and you're still growing as an athlete, because now I'm starting to understand, okay, I can I know how to run this 400, I just really have to commit to getting out more. So I remember my last race of the 2021 season, which the Olympics had already started, and go figure, I ended up running 6th fastest time in Canada that year, which then gave me the opportunity to be carded again. So that was a huge relief because it showed that, all right, I didn't make the Olympic team, but my federation saw my strength, my perseverance, and they still rewarded me. So that was a big moment for me that I overcame self-doubt, because when you don't feel like you're getting supported, it can really take a toll on you. But then when you strip everything and you just look at what you have in front of you. And I knew that I run really well when I'm relaxed. And so how do I get to that point again and take away all the external pressures? And I was able to do that. So those were 2 really key things for me. I was noticing that it was 95% me being really hard on myself and that not helping. At the end of it wasn't really helping. So that's something that I'm really, really proud that I've worked through. And with sports, I think it's heightened because there is literally a time next to your name in a ranking. It's very clear, compared to other people, how you're faring. But that's what I'm saying. You got to look at yourself and almost not look at everyone above you, below you, and just see in perspective to what you've experienced that year. How does that translate?
So many good points I want to recap. But as you were just saying, I think this is a really hard lesson for athletes to learn, because in many ways it is that self determination or pressure that we put on ourselves that helps us achieve greatness, push ourselves harder. That is what often, the dedication it takes for an athlete to get faster, get stronger, get bigger, push the extra bit, sign up for the next race, put yourself out there. It is a lot of self-pressure, but it reaches this breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
which, you came to of, wait a second, this is putting all this pressure on myself is not serving me anymore.
Yeah, that's
How
it.
do I take that pressure off? And look, there's external pressures, there's internal pressures. And, some people have some really awful external pressures that they have to work through, be it their family, their coaches.
Yes.
But a lot of the times, most of the pressure is from ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is totally different, but I'll never forget, just as a student growing up in grade school and in college, I had so much pressure on myself to receive straight A's. And I'll never forget, at some point in high school, my dad was like, please get a C. He was shook me.
Gosh, yes.
He was like, I want you to fail so it's okay.
I know. So yes, exactly. You face that. Yes. Wow. Good. Kudos to your dad.
So and just a reminder that sometimes those pressures are coming from ourselves, and that, for you, I'm sure your parents want you to achieve your dream, but I don't know them, but judging by the fact that you're showing up here today, such a wonderful person, I'm sure they're good people too. And they would love you no matter what, even if you weren't an Olympian, right? Even if you weren't a track and field athlete. So that internal pressure, is really so much present for most of us. And I think your book can really help people reflect on that and move through that.
There we go. That's it. Exactly. This is a guide to embrace an Olympic mindset. And if you can take any nuggets from my book, from my 11 pivotal races, that I've learned so much about myself. And if you can even find one thing that's a parallel, I think that you can really see how we're all so similar, and that already brings comfort. So as you just said, if you can move through those obstacles and give yourself these great prompts and these daily reminders, it's because that's the thing. It's not a one size fits all problem, but at the same time, there's always going to be tools that I find people can go, oh, that I really relate to this, and I want to exercise that. And then just see if you feel any lighter when you're going towards those big goals. Because that's the thing, when you're achieving greatness, it's going to be tough. I tell people that about being an Olympian and being a track athlete. It's a very, very intense sport. However, when you find ways to make it work for you, I actually look forward to racing. I look forward to getting one step closer towards my goal, because I know I've put the foundations down and I'm prepared when something comes up that in the past I might have just put so many things up saying, oh my gosh, oh no, be careful, protect yourself. Now I can tell the difference between oh, that was just me thinking the worst and doomsdaying, as opposed to, oh, you're good, you can do this, you've done it before.
Yeah, so my brain was thinking, just like your book, you talk about 11 races that had these pivotal moments where you learned, and then you basically have a workbook coinciding with it so that the reader can then take, okay, this is what Micha went through, and how does this apply to my life? Do I have a similar situation? And I love that, because it's one thing to read somebody else's journey, but it's another to then reflect that upon yourself so that you can grow from it.
Yeah.
Right. We all we can learn from other people, but you really learn from yourself the best. So
there we go. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
When you go through it yourself. So I love that we can read your story and then reflect upon it ourselves so that we can learn ourselves. And as you were talking just now, you talking again about the 2016 Olympic experience, you made it to the Olympics, but there was this but attached to it. But I didn't get to actually race, but maybe I let people down. But am I really an Olympian? There was that imposter syndrome sneaking in there, right?
Exactly.
And again, kind of reflecting this now and my role as a dietitian, I just had this light bulb go off to an everyday moment. I had a client call last night, the client who's really struggling with her nutrition right now. And I met with her last week. I gave her a goal to work on. She showed up to the call last night. She said, well, I did what you said, but something else went wrong, essentially.
Yeah.
So I did the challenge. I added more fats to my meal, but I didn't push myself in any other way. And and I had to really pause her and say, wait. We can work through all that other stuff, but we need to focus. You accomplished the challenge. You did what I asked of you. You achieved that goal.
Thank you.
And so right, a totally different like example, but the same lesson of we need to focus on the good stuff. We gotta work through the other
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
We
yeah,
want to
yeah.
keep achieving something, but like
Yeah.
let's focus on the good, focus on what you did do and appreciate that and be grateful for that, be proud of that.
Thank you.
And it keeps you more present. It keeps
That's it.
you in a better, like, I think, positive mindset. Not that we always have to be positive, but just recognizing your wins,
That's
recognizing
it.
what you already are.
I think there's this really crazy response our body has. I think it's a way of having control. I think that's where the but comes in. We're trying to be able to say, but I didn't do this, as if like that's some like, oh, I know for sure a fact I didn't accomplish this goal. It's like, but wait, you did accomplish something else.
Yeah.
And no one's going to take that away from you. And I know that that's something that I've gone through where I've tried to protect myself. It's like I've said, I'm Olympian, but what do you mean? Like, so it's so great to have somebody like you in that situation, that you're such a clear voice. Like, yeah, okay, we'll deal with what might have not have happened immediately, but what about the thing that you did work through and that you did
Yeah.
accomplish? Because that is just as valuable, and if not more relatable to what you're going through, because you didn't have that tool before and now you do. And now you can just add on to it. So it's a beautiful way that you just, use that juxtaposition, because that's the thing about sport. It's like we all have to have that mentality of yes, 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 I could have done 1,000 things better, but what did I do right? And what can I add upon this? So there's this abundance mindset as opposed to
Mm.
scarcity.
Yeah, I love that because when you do recognize all that you have, yeah, then it
Yeah.
motivates you to keep adding to it, to be in that abundant mindset. And
Thank you.
and then it keeps growing and flourishing from there. Whereas if we keep focusing on what we didn't achieve, that sets us into that scarcity mindset. This is what I don't have, what I didn't do, what I'm not good enough in.
Thank you.
And it just, yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother hour-long episode about scarcity and abundance
I
mindset.
know. And I have to just add this really quickly, but I feel like, especially as women, and I might be generalizing, but I really think that this applies to so many of us, is like we often feel almost more comfortable being small, like we're not stepping on people's toes. And I'm like, I'm so over that. Like I've done that for most of my life, just being like, I'm gonna just, lower my wins. I'm only gonna try and like be only just big enough so it doesn't, offend anyone. Like, no, I'm over being small. I'm gonna celebrate my wins. And what's the worst thing that can happen? Some person says, no, you didn't race in the Olympics. Okay, but I made the Olympics. Like it's like
Yeah,
facing up to those imaginary, arguments, and just being like, the first of all, that's not gonna happen. But also if it did, yes, and I did
right.
accomplish this. So I'm really starting to notice, in my book, all my meets, I felt bigger in myself. Like I felt like even the ones where I didn't race, there's one race where I didn't race, I did feel like there was a quicker turnaround. It's like I didn't run because I know there's more to come. So there's just that theme as well as women. It's like it's we're not doing ourselves any favor by being smaller, like following a status quo. Like we have to really show up for ourselves. And trust me, I talk about this in my book too. You're gonna find the people who surround you who want that for you, and that's who you want to be surrounded by, because they're gonna make sure that you're your biggest self. They're not gonna be happier if you're small and trying to keep things in. Like no, they want to see you at your absolute best.
Yeah, I love that. And so relatable to a lot of girls and women. I don't know, is it part of our DNA personality trait or is it society,
Right,
and
right.
I don't know, but
So
it's
many.
time to, yeah, stop trying to lessen ourselves or be small and be loud, take up
Yes,
space,
take up
share
space.
your
What's the
voice.
worst? Share your voice. You never know who's going to be hearing what you have to say and go, oh my gosh, that's me, And that's way better than, like you just said, being smaller and lesser and quiet. Like, just
Yeah,
if that's your personality, of course, that's fine. But like, make sure that you're not being lesser because of anyone else or any external things.
right, right, right. Absolutely. I love that. Okay, so obviously this all like makes sense that you're like, I've learned all these lessons along the way, but I'd also love to hear like, you're busy, you're a full-time athlete, you're a sponsored athlete, you were recovering from injury this past year. Like, what for you was like, I gotta write this book?
Yes.
Like, and how did you write? You're an athlete, you wrote a book. That's really cool. Not everybody calls himself an author.
Thank you very much. I think that's my personality. So, when I watched the Olympics in 2012 and I said, I want to make the next Olympics, then I did. And again, I was doing but I didn't, but at the same time I did. I made the Olympics within a cycle of me seeing the ones currently on screen. And the same thing with this book, there's just this realization that I would speak about my truth or I'd post online and I would get such very intense responses, and people in my DMs are coming up in person and just being like, wow, you're so positive. Like, how are you this positive? And I realized, I was like, oh, I think I have to be a little bit more transparent, because I'm not positive in a way that people think. Like, I'm not just everything's great, I wake up in the morning, the birds are chirping. No, like I have so many internal monologues, and I have so many times that I've like thought, am I doing this enough? Am I being enough? So I realized, man, this is so important. I need to share my story. And Molly Herford, who's my publisher, came up to me when she was doing a shoot for New Balance and Canadian running. And she said, whoa. Your story is just, there's too many great life lessons for you not to put this out there.
You got to put it in writing.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that that's something also, as my background is in journalism. So I have I have my bachelor's in journalism, and I got my master's in digital media. So I've always been a storyteller. I've always loved connecting with people. And so because I was having so many great conversations with people in person, and then COVID happened, and I remember it felt really isolating, and me and my training partner at the time had to go through the most insane, 7 months to train through without a coach, without really access to a track. We had to do some things that, again, like, the Canadian government had their priorities and we had ours, and we had to jump some fences. We'll just put it like that.
Maybe even literally to get to the track, to jump some fences. I don't know.
Yes, 7 a.m. It was so stressful, and it was insane to think, wait, I'm doing all this so I can represent my country, but I don't have the resources or freedom. And then we would just go to race in the States because there was the opportunity there. And so all these experiences, I was like, oh my gosh, my boyfriend even brought up a point. He's like, this could be a movie. Like, that's crazy. This is not a normal thing. So I think with all that feedback coming from people who are like, what? Your parents are Olympians, world record holder, Canadian record holder, and I'm their daughter who I try to do so much at once. And then I'm realizing, okay, yeah, I need to put this into writing. So yeah, it all started last year. And I remember when I reached out to, or actually, yeah, it was last year. Yeah, I reached out to New Balance in 2022 after Commonwealth Games, and 2021. It was after I made the Indoor World Championships, and I reached out to New Balance and I said, hey, I really want to be a New Balance athlete. I train in Canada, and I really feel like our values align. And I got a sponsorship in 2023. So I recognize just all these things that I do. I really work towards, I put things in place. So with that came, okay, we're going to write this book. And then I went through all of the ways I wanted to have it, framed, and came to the conclusion that, okay, it's going to be all like 11 races. At first it was 10, but 11 just felt right. It was like complete. And I wanted to finish off. I knew for a fact, I wanted to finish off with the joy chapter, because that's, I think, a great representation of me, that I overcome a lot, but at the end of the day, I always see all the good that has come out of my career. Like, I think with track, yes, there's so many hurdles and there's so many lows, but I wouldn't be in the sport if there didn't feel like there was something that was really uplifting that can come out of it. And that's why I ended up with my joy chapter with my mom, because she's the biggest reason why I would say I wrote this book. She had me in 1995. She went to her third Olympics in 1996, broke the Canadian record over and over again, and came sixth at the Olympics. And guess what? My mom, to this day, like hardly ever brings this up. I know for a fact that I don't think really recognizes what she did, because it's not a medal and we don't celebrate non-medals. That's just, I get it, it's easier to market, but I celebrate her every day, and I think about who else was a mom in that finals? No one, and who else had to go through. She had hamstring injuries just like me leading up to Worlds in 95, Olympics as well. So to see her persevere, and I find sometimes like almost brush it off. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I do. So I want to break that. And this book is a compilation of that. It's a compilation of the respect that my mom deserves, and me being, of course, the byproduct of her and my dad. And then realizing that I have a lot of great themes to share that so many people have gone through. And then funnily enough, I knew I wanted to write a book before I retired, because I found that there aren't a lot of athletes who do that. It's usually like, after, exactly, like Andre Agassi's book is incredible, but it's after all of his, highlights. And I find with me, there was this like relatability to writing a book that I'm going through right now. In the moment, and then there's also with the times changing and everything being so quick, to post and immediately available. I do like the fact that people can come up to me and in real time ask me things about what I've written in the book.
Yeah.
And then there is that, there's that magic of, oh, is she going for 2028? And I am. I am going for the 2028 Olympics. So now everybody can follow my journey post this book, with this book, and utilize the journal that I utilize for my own dreams. So they can see in real time that I am achieving what I want, and I am accomplishing my goals little by little to get to that ultimate 2028 Olympic. I would love to end my career there on a high. So there's that. Those are like the main reasons why I wrote the book, and why I wrote it while I'm still competing. It just didn't feel like I wanted to wait 4 years, because why? Like, there's no one saying that's how you have to write a memoir. So that was my spin on it.
It's so I love that mindset. Like, you don't need to know such a theme of what we're talking about.
Right.
You don't need to know the end to appreciate and be proud of where you're at right now.
There we go. Exactly.
So it's like, wait, write the book right now. This is still of value right now, maybe even more so.
Even more so. That's it, because it's so fresh in my mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. And so first of all, you're quick on the track, and like quick. You wrote a book in a year.
Yeah.
Watched the Olympics in 2012. You're in it in 2016. You're just a quick gal. But as you're saying, it's relevant. You're in it right now. And as you were writing this book over the past year about how to overcome setbacks, you were kind of going through a setback in the moment of injury.
Yes. So really being transparent in this book was the key for me. I had my boyfriend read the chapters over, or at least I had him read one chapter over earlier in like November, December. And he was like, wow, the first thing he said was, wow, this is so vulnerable. And, I could tell from his voice, he's like, wow, you're really sharing all this. And it's because I know that specifically in track and field, there is this, I think, like unspoken, I would say rule, or kind of just like way of being, where you don't tell everybody your injuries. Like, it can literally be seen as like, oh, great, this person is injured. Okay, one less person I have to worry about. I know with track and field in our community, it can be seen as definitely a disadvantage to share your injuries, because once people get wind of you being injured, it's like an easy way to just write you off, Or let's be honest, it's seen as a liability because if you're asked to come to meets, they might think, oh no, like you're injured. Maybe you're not going to be able to run a fast time and then we're not going to draw in as much of a crowd. And if you see a lot of athletes this year, we all push through. Like, I mean, there was Elaine Thompson who was running, and could just see her just like every race trying to make it work, but she was dealing with an injury. And then so many Canadian athletes, I know we've been all just pushing to push ourselves so that we could get the Olympic standard, but it just doesn't work that way because we need rest. But I wanted to share that as I was writing this book, I was injured because, of course, ideally I wanted to say, and I overcame everything and I ran and I was able to make the Olympic standard. But honestly, beyond that, it was the fact that I was saying, look, I am injured, but I'm going to give myself the best season while injured that I can, so that I can reframe it as a way of not saying like, I'm going to hide the fact that I'm injured. I'm just going to go away for 6 months. I don't want to talk to him because I just feel like then it feels like I've done something wrong. And I wanted to stay clear of that narrative. I didn't want this narrative of I'm hurt, it's my fault, and I don't deserve to see the, the daylight. Like, whoa. I wanted to share that when you're going through tough times, it's so much better to feel like you can share that with people, especially people who, have they have your best intentions at heart. And so when I was writing this, and yes, being vulnerable about the fact that I'm currently injured, I just wanted it to be known that it's not this like perfect picture going towards your goals, because it could be a big setback like the year of the Olympics.
Right.
I'm hurt and with an injury that I've never had before. I've never had is my digitorum longus that I strained, I guess, or I pulled. It's still hard to tell what it was because it lingers a little bit. But, it's just this injury in a place where I'm constantly putting so much force onto it. Apparently, it's like 8 times the force when I'm sprinting is on my leg. So it's hard to just feel like, oh, that's going to heal up tomorrow, but you want to. So I remember just being really kind to myself throughout this journey. And I think that with this book being out now and hearing people messaging me in real time saying it's helped them through watching the Olympics, people who didn't make it like me, and help them get through it mentally. I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I didn't write this book, how that person's life would have changed, or, it's just, but it makes me go, wow, I actually made a little difference in somebody's, journey through a setback. And that's who I am to a T. I love helping people just making their day a little bit brighter. And so if I can write a book like this, and by being vulnerable and by saying I had a really high year and then this year it was a lot tougher to know what was going to happen, but I still had hope and I wasn't beating myself up for it as much. Obviously, when I was hurt going into Olympics trials in Montreal, it was very tough because I knew that everybody was going to be putting their best on the line. And it was hard to see, people that I remember running against the year before, and we were all on par. But now I had to really kind of go, you have to run this for yourself. And I think that just made me more okay with the trials, as opposed to, I think if I went into it, I hid for half a year, nobody knew what I was doing. And then they're thinking, okay, well, is she fully back or not?
Right.
So it was like, I think it was good to take away some of the shame, right, of having an injury, and just normalizing that it happens, and that who's to say I'm not going to have an even better year next year because I was injured and I was injured again and I was injured again. And then I finally was able to go, okay, look, I know what I want and I know that I need to be healthy to get that. So now this year is all about getting as strong as possible in a really good environment that's going to be conducive to that. And next year, World Championships are in September. So I have so much time to be at my best by late summer next year. And along the way, I'm going to remember everything I did this year and what helped me, what didn't help me, and just navigate that. And that's what I hope people take away from this book, is that you have to go through those uncomfortable situations, but know that it's not going to define you. And to almost like just take it up as this is obviously not ideal, but I'm going to make the most out of this and learn from it in any way that I can.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate that. And I think it's great that you did write the book when you did, because again, so many books, it's like, we write it afterwards and, oh, here's the happy ending type of thing.
Yes.
But when people are struggling, that's one thing that they struggle with is like, yeah, well, it all worked out for that person, but it's not going to work out for me. Like, and it's like,
right.
But that person didn't know it was all going to work out when they were in it. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then also, if people follow me after this book, I know that I think we're going to find like parallels, because I feel like people are going to remember my mindset writing this book and then see me grow and run faster and run freer and go, oh my gosh, look at how she kept going with her attitude of like literally sprinting through setbacks, and then see that reflected in themselves. As you said, this is for everyone to feel like they can go through their own journey while having my book as a guide.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like this book there's not a timeline to it. You can use this in any part of your life. And I'm just happy that I got to write it during my, the thick of my career, because I've learned so much from it. And I know that I'm also going to look back and go, wow, like, I remember experiencing that race and now I see it so differently. So really, really glad that people can take so much out of it and put their own spin on it.
For sure. Wow. So exciting to have the book out, to have it already impacting people, reaching out to you, especially with, as you mentioned, the Olympics that are ongoing right now. And, sometimes, Micha, this is the Female Athlete Nutrition Podcast. So all topics are welcome. We really didn't dive into nutrition. I don't really feel the need to.
I know. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for intuitive eating. That's always what I tell people is my best trait as an Olympian. And that's as simple as that. I cook what I know I love and what fuels my body for great workouts. So it's but all the topics we talked about,
also like it embodies your personality too. It's like you learned that like putting too much pressure on yourself didn't work. I have to find the joy. So it's like find the joy in what you eat, find the joy in cooking, find the joy in fueling yourself. Intuitive eating works for you.
It's so funny, Lindsay. You and I have a hilarious story that's very similar. So with your dad saying, can you just get a C? Like, just, it's okay. So you can give yourself a little bit of a break. So for me, my nutritionist, when I was, I think I was at Worlds. Yeah, it was Worlds. And she told me, she's like, Micha, you're so good at eating well, but you need sometimes to like, just get off that track. She's like, you need to have a muffin. And she's like, I'm not talking about those whole wheat muffins. I'm talking about one that you just buy from the store and you don't even look at the back. And I'm like, I love that reminder, because
go to Costco, get one of those double chocolate muffins.
Girl, this big.
Yes.
I don't even need to know what filler's in there, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because that one muffin is not going to undo anything that you've already built on. So that's, again, so similar to the book, so similar to how you and I are such high achievers, but you gotta give yourself that break, that release. So I thought that was a really funny story that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. It's like, you're doing so well. It's okay.
Yeah, as a dietitian for female athletes, I'm telling them all that all the time too. I'm like, okay, you're doing great with your, pre-workout oatmeal, but like, just someday you gotta have a donut before workout. Because like, go for it.
Thank you. Which sounds crazy, because I feel like everything on social media right now is like being like perfect and having everything homegrown, and there's all those funny they're obviously extreme, but like those videos of people like making everything from scratch, and I'm like, I don't have time, so I'm going to tell myself, hey, if I don't have time, I'm going to get that frozen, I think they have like those frozen ristorante pizzas, because I have literally zero time and I need to just check some boxes, and that's helped me again feel less like I have to control everything and just go, you're doing your body so much good. Here's a pizza. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. And sometimes just the balance of like, that was less stressful is
There we go.
what you need, right? Like what's the, yes, we need to fuel. You're fueling great 98% of the time. Now we need the easy
exactly.
button. Now we need the less stressful thing. Now we need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's already established that like all of us high achieving people, we already have incredible traits. So why are we punishing ourselves? And like you just said, not seeing the fact that maybe having less stress when I'm coming back from practice at like 9 p.m. and just having a nice something quick is going to help too.
Is the best.
That could help.
It's actually the best choice.
Probably the best. Yes.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. So there we go. We checked the box. We talked about nutrition.
We killed it.
I end every episode with a few fun questions, kicking us off with a nutrition one. If there was one food you could eat every single day for the rest of your life and never get sick of it, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Probably pad thai. Yeah. Yeah, chicken pad thai, because I'll indulge in that and then I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm chicken pad thai'd out. But if I could never be, done. That or ramen noodles, like going to a restaurant and having those beautiful, like deep bowl with seaweed and pork. Oh my gosh. Yes, those two.
Love it. Sounds obvious, but you just never know. What is your favorite sport to participate in?
Oh my gosh. That's actually a really good question, because I think because I'm so into track, I won't say track because it's just at this point, like, I love the sport, but I'm somebody who loves trying new things.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I think I would actually say my first love, tennis, because tennis for me, there's this element to it, because you're playing against this person, but you're really playing against yourself. And then when you get into rhythm, it's like a dance. And I think also because it plays with endurance and speed. So you have the two together. And also, the style, like, are you kidding me? Serena Williams, just like giving it every time. And I think that because there's a variety in style, you can bring a little bit more of your personality to the game. Like when I'm running, I look so mad. Like that's not, they're not like, wow, that's Micha. Like I just focus. I don't hear anything. So there is a thing with tennis. I'm like, wow, it would be amazing to do tennis at that high level.
Comes out.
And the flair. And then people like that. Also, people don't like that. That's fine. But it's a part of your game.
Yeah.
It's a part of that. So I'm going to say tennis. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Curveball. Tennis for a variety of reasons. Lots of different reasons too.
You got it.
And how about to watch as a spectator? What's your favorite sport to watch, cheer on?
That's funny because that's where I have to say track and field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just because there is the immediate label of that was the fastest man, that was the fastest woman, or that was the highest, Duplantis Mondo, he just did the highest pole vault. So you saw somebody jump over a 6.25 meter bar. And then you start to think about it. You're like, that's a building. So I think that's why I love track and field, because you literally can go, wait, what? Or for example, my dad's long jump record that hasn't been broken in over 30 years. He jumped 9 meters. That's a bus. So you're telling me if you put a bus in front, like what? So that's why I love track, because there's all these cool.
Yeah, no, it is really cool when you think of it that way. And like when you think of other sports, soccer, baseball,
right?
Those statistics are a lot harder to come by and conceptualize. But when you're like, oh, I jumped the distance of a bus, I jumped over a building. That's such a cool thing to.
You can't tell me anything. If I can jump over a bus, you can't tell me anything. My gosh!
And I always think too, like I'm a trackie at heart too.
Yay!
I just think too, it's kind of takes all the other sports, and I love all sports, but track and field is kind of like, okay, what's the foundation of most sports where there's skill, there's speed, there's endurance, there's jumping, there's throwing. Okay, now let's break it all down to the bare bones and see who's the best at the bare bones of it. And
there we go. Exactly. It's movement at its purest form, and strength, obviously.
Yeah.
Ooh, those throwers. I don't think people realize how heavy those implements are. Like, I think people just think, oh, cool, he threw it far or she threw it far. No, like, you're throwing something that shouldn't be thrown. and it's going a very far distance.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree. It's like you just said, it's truest form. I love it. I love it.
Okay, our final question, and it's a hard one. If there's a female athlete out there that you want to give a shout out to for just being an inspiration, a role model for any reason, who would that be and why?
Wow. I think for me it would be, I'm going to also go back to my tennis roots, and I'm going to say Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Because she ruffled a lot of feathers by just being herself. And I think if you can be unapologetically yourself and break the mold and be such a phenom that people still find ways to try and bring you down and you still overcome that, I think that's like a perfect example of like an unshakable woman that we should all look at and be like, whoa, she went through some real pushback for just being really good at what she was doing. And she put her style on everything. And, you know, she was told she was, of course, in the media, she was too masculine or she was too muscular. And I don't know her personally, and I'm sure that affected her in some ways, but yet she still was able to speak about it and then go out there and show why she's so good. And now she has her 2 kids, and she's like, I can just see she loves being a mom and having that role. And I feel like she didn't let tennis define her, which is crazy because I feel like I grew up with her playing tennis, but I see her as Serena Williams. Like if I saw her down the street, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, you're not at a tennis court. Like, I'm like, no, you're a person. You know, you've contributed so much to sport in general. So I think that I would say Serena, I would thank her for being unapologetically herself and really showing that she's not just the best female tennis player, but she's one of the best tennis players out there.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. And so you're just like also making me think a little outside the box. Whenever I ask that question, a lot of our guests' answers usually are like, well, they're my favorite athlete, not just because of their athletics, because of all these other reasons. And I want to just pause on that for a moment. I think this is where female athletes are doing that. Honestly, I'm not trying to put men down, but like we're doing that a little bit better than the men are still very much fitting in their mold of I'm an athlete. And the women are like, no, I'm more than that. And we love them for that.
I couldn't agree more. Wow, that's such a great observation. Absolutely. You're right.
I don't know if it's just what makes us like if we are our true selves, we're also better athletes.
Oh, what? Boom, we solved it.
Yeah, done. So shout out to Serena Williams and to you, Micha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on this podcast, having this beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing your story with others, not only verbally on social media, but now in a book that can help people and is living proof of how it's helped you in your journey as you continue to overcome setbacks and thrive, be an amazing track and field athlete. We've got our eyes set on another Olympics and just many other races in between now and then that are still worthy of, being proud of every single race and training that you go through from now until then. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was a wonderful experience. Like you said, a beautiful chat. And I really hope that people get the chance to get my book and see how they can adopt that Olympic mindset in every aspect of their life when they're achieving those big goals.
All you have to do is go on your Instagram, your website, follow the links in the show notes, or just Google it and you'll find her book. So we'll be sure to share it all in the show notes too. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, if you are a true fan of female athlete nutrition, then I would love if you could support our podcast by spreading the word. Share a review on your listening channel, give us 5 stars. It really helps get the word out and get the show more views to positively impact others. Also, you can support the podcast by joining our Patreon. Head to patreon.com/female athlete nutrition to consider a donation, or even better, join our membership where you get extra monthly content and perks. We don't want you to simply listen alone. We want you to be a part of a community and a movement of fierce, fit, and fueled female athletes. So patreon.com/female athlete nutrition is where you can do exactly that, learn more, and join. A huge thanks to our affiliates and partners as well. Once again, Prevenix, Inside Tracker, or Gain, Practice Better, Jen and Carrie. Please go check them out, and their links in the show notes where you can get deals and discounts. Last, be sure that you do more than just listen. If you need help with fueling, it's time to take action. Head to my website to learn more. You can either book a free call with me to learn more about our coaching programs and how we can work directly with you, whether it's the fast track or otherwise. Or you can take our online self-study course, Female Athlete Nutrition. You can literally sign up and gain access right now. You can explore our downloadable products, including the Red S Recovery Guide, High Iron Fueling Guide, or if you are a coach of a team, check out our brand new Coaches Toolkit for teams. You can also just learn more. We have a blog, a Red S quiz to see if Red S is affecting you. If you need help, I want you to get help fast. Too many girls and athletes struggle with nutrition, but you don't have to any longer. You can rise up with the power of nutrition, take action today in any of these avenues, and become fierce, fit, and fueled. Links in the show notes, and we'll see you next time.